Welcome back, budgeteers. Coach Nino Villa here, disciple of Christ, husband, father, and financial coach. And today on the New Money Habits podcast, I want to talk to high school graduates and their parents about what they should do to get started on the right foot with money. Hey there, budgeteers. The new year is here, and you know what that means. It's time for fresh starts and new habits. If one of your goals is to get better with your money, New Money Habits has exactly what you need to kick things off right: the Payday Power Planner. This isn't just any budget tool. The Payday Power Planner is designed to work with your pay periods, not just the calendar month. Why does that matter? Because it helps you to see exactly when your money is coming in and going out. No surprises, no guesswork. With the Payday Power Planner, you'll know if you're working with a surplus or facing a deficit, so you can make informed decisions about your money. It's not just a plan, it's the clarity and control you've been looking for to start the new year strong. Make this the year you finally build new habits for financial freedom. Grab your free Payday Power Planner from New Money Habits today and take the first step toward a better financial future. Visit newmoneyhabits.com now, because this year it's time for a better plan for your money. So graduation season is upon us. Kids are graduating high school, and they are going to be launched into the real world. And unfortunately, they haven't learned what they need to have learned about money to this point. Far too few high schools have any actual personal finance curriculum. And too often, as parents, we don't sit down and necessarily have these conversations with our kids. And that's not an attack. That is not a, hey, what are you doing? It's more of just kind of a byproduct of our own upbringing, most often. If you are in my generation, my parents didn't talk to me about money. They certainly didn't share with me how much they made or whether they were struggling and those sorts of things. I mean, I observed plenty to get a sense, but I didn't have a peek behind the curtain, let's say. But I feel like times are changing. I feel like more and more we are opening up about our own personal finances, and oftentimes with our kids. That's my hope anyway. Maybe that's just simply my experience. And so perhaps I'm speaking through a bias where I have these conversations with our children. Our children know our financial situation, maybe not every detail of it, but a lot. And so we're launching these kids off into the real world. They've walked across the stage and now they're walking into real life. And for many, they are uninformed. Nobody has handed them any type of playbook for their money. And so my goal today is to start to break that down a little bit and give you, if you are a high school grad, or you, if you're the parent of a high school grad, or maybe you're just an adult who knows a child who has recently graduated, and you, after listening to this, you're like, man, I want to go and have a conversation with them to empower them to start off on the right foot. I don't know anybody who doesn't kind of live by the if I knew then what I know now mantra, wishing that they would have started saving and investing earlier, or that they might have bought a home sooner than they did. Or if you're like me, when I bought my first home, the whole if I knew then what I know now, maybe I would have made a different choice. Don't get me wrong, I'm incredibly grateful, incredibly blessed to have the home that I have. I'm just saying we all kind of play the what if games in our mind. And so, what if you could sit down with a high school grad and put them truly on the right path? If you could help them establish really good, solid, firm money habits early that they just take into their young adulthood and eventually their full adulthood, if they can establish those habits now, they will be in a really, really good place. So if you are 18 years old, give or take, this is your chance to start on a solid foundation before things like debt, especially credit card debt, form, and before bad habits form. So we'll talk to you about what good habits can you establish and what are some just general rules to live by. I'll give you an example of one that you may have heard already that I think is not as helpful as people think it is. And that's if you have a credit card, make sure you pay it off every month. That is limiting in its helpfulness. And here's why. If I go up to an 18-year-old who doesn't have a steady income, and yet maybe they have a credit card offer or they apply for it and they get it, to just simply tell them, make sure you pay it off every month, is not as helpful as helping them to understand how to use it so that they can pay it off every month. And so other tips and tricks like don't ever put anything on the credit card that you don't already have the cash to pay for is the way that they can pay it off every month. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. We'll talk about how to start on the right foot. And if you're an adult, if you're a parent of a teenager who has graduated, or you're just an adult, I want to encourage you that now is the time for real financial conversations, and it's time for you to put on your coach's hat. I'm not wearing my coach's hat today, but for any of those who catch these on YouTube, you know that I have a coach's hat. I think it's off to the side today. Anyway, I digress. It's time for you to put on your coach's hat. It's not time for control. You don't want to control your graduates' finances. You want to help coach them to learn how to manage their finances well. And so today's not about like lecturing to anybody. It's about sharing empowerment. It's about sharing perspective to help you either get started on the right foot or have a conversation with a grad to get them started on the right foot. And I want to start by setting this foundation. Money is simply a tool. It's just a tool. So, similar to learning how to use a hammer and a screwdriver, and then eventually, like a wrench or a saw, you have to learn how to use these tools. A bicycle is a tool, it's a vehicle you had to learn how to use. An automobile is a tool, it's a vehicle you had to learn how to use. Your smartphone is a tool that you had to learn how to use. And so money is just a tool that you need to learn how to use. And if you learn how to use it, you'll make it work for you. If you don't learn how to use money, it will end up working against you. And I trust that any adult, especially in my generation, who is listening to this right now, they'll shake their head vehemently. Yes, if I don't learn how to use money well, I didn't learn how to use money well, and it worked against me. And you probably have example after example after example. So you didn't learn this stuff in school. Parents, this is an opportunity to sit down with your grad and help them establish some healthy habits early.
Hey there, budgeteers. Good news can only be good news if there's bad news. So, what's the bad news? The bad news is you and I have a deadly disease called sin, and this disease causes us to rebel and disobey God. See, God is holy, righteous, and just, and He cannot be in the presence of sin. So this horrible disease of ours separates us from the God who created us. And the bad news gets worse. There isn't anything you or I can do to make ourselves right with God. We are dead in our sins and on our way to an eternity separated from God. But that's not God's will for us. See, for God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whoever believes in Him should not perish but have everlasting life. God did what only God could do. He made a way for us to be reconciled to Him through Jesus Christ. Jesus came into the world to save sinners like you and me. While we were still sinners, storing up God's anger against us for our rebellion and disobedience, Christ died for us. Jesus took the punishment that you and I deserve and have earned. Jesus is the substitute for your punishment and mine. Now, isn't that some good news? The word gospel means good news. The gospel of Jesus Christ is that you and I broke God's law and Jesus paid the fine. When we place our faith and trust in Jesus, we get to experience God's grace and mercy. Our gratitude should turn us from our rebellious and disobedient sin toward God, seeking after Him and His righteousness. When we do, God gives us a new heart and a new mind. Praise God for His goodness, and remember, God loves, humans sin, Jesus saves.
Okay, so here are top 5 money moves for every high school grad. Number 1, it's time to open up your own checking and savings account in your own name. Parents, I want you to empower your children, your graduate, to go and get a separate account from yours. Maybe to this point, if you're anything like me, maybe you have a custodial account where your name is on the same checking and savings account as your children. But now it's time for your children to have some independence. So grads, it's time to go and open up a checking and a savings account in your name to start to build independence. Parents, this is an opportunity for you to put on that coach's hat, and you're going to let your grad practice managing money, and do that with your guidance, not with your control, but with your guidance. And so what might that look like? My daughter is 15 years old. And so I'm not quite there, but I'll give you an example of a plan that's already in place. My daughter already volunteers. She is plugged in to a couple of different volunteer opportunities, and one of those is that she's a junior lifeguard. Lifeguards are in short supply here in Arizona, and so she's already thinking about next year when she's 16, she'll be eligible to be hired as not a full-time lifeguard, but a full lifeguard. Just meaning she won't be a junior guard who's volunteering anymore. She'll be a lifeguard who is actually on the clock and earning a wage. She is also very excited about driving, and she wants to get her license. And the plan right now is that she will borrow dad's car and she can use it. But I've already told her that in order to drive my car, she has to be placed on our insurance. And whatever our insurance premium goes up by, let's say it goes up by $150. I certainly hope not, but let's just say that. Then it's going to be her responsibility to pay $150 to mom and dad for the use of the car because she needs to have insurance. So she'll be employed, she'll be earning a wage, and she'll have this responsibility to mom and dad. So if you did something similar, this is a great opportunity for your grad to have their own checking or savings account, checking and savings account, so that whatever money they are earning goes into their checking account. And then they become responsible for something, whether that's car insurance to you, or truly car insurance on their own, or their portion of the cell phone bill, $30 a month, $40 a month, or at least putting gas in the car. They have to manage something. If they have money coming in, they should manage at least one expense. This is also a perfect time for them to build the habit of saving and investing. And so again, if they have a checking and a savings account, they're managing at least maybe one expense, but they're also saving. That's what the savings account is for, right? And get them into the habit now that 5%, 10%, 15% of every dollar that they make goes into savings. They get into that habit now when their expenses and other obligations and responsibilities are low. They will just build this inherent bent to save money, but save and invest. So first start with savings and eventually get into investing as well. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. Parents, help your grad learn how to budget. Or if you're a grad and you're listening to this, learn how to budget, even if you're not budgeting a lot. But this goes back to understanding, like, when I get money in, what am I doing with it? How much of it is used to pay expenses that I'm obligated to? Again, maybe a cell phone bill, car insurance, that sort of thing. How much of it is being saved and or invested? How much of it am I using to enjoy the fruits of my labor, right? I'm really dating myself. If you're 18 years old, you're like, what did you just say? The fruits of my what? Just means that you should be able to enjoy your hard-earned money. So how much of it is being set aside for that? So let me give you some guidelines. When you are first learning how to budget, I would encourage you to have 4 categories. The first is actually giving. Let me encourage you now to make a habit of giving. And you want to put a percentage to all of these things. So every dollar that you get in, set aside 10%. That's 10 cents on every dollar to go towards giving. You can find opportunities and organizations that you trust that you want to give to, but it's going to keep you generous and it's going to keep you humble. And it's a great thing to establish right away. The second category is saving. So again, pick a percentage and save that percent of every dollar that comes in. So for every dollar that comes in, if you did another 10%, that's 10 cents. At 10 cents on every dollar goes into savings. You also want to start investing. Now, you might want to start investing right away into a retirement account, but whether it's a retirement account or it's just a regular investment account, you want to start investing your money. And so maybe you do another 10%. I would actually encourage you to do 15. So now we're talking about 15 cents of every dollar goes toward investing. So we've done 10 cents, 10 cents, and 15 cents. We've done 35 cents of every dollar. That leaves you 65% of every dollar. So 65 cents on every dollar to spend. And that's the fourth category. So you got giving, you got saving, you got investing, and you got spending. And then that 65% has to be broken down. And I've had this conversation with my 15-year-old recently where, okay, out of that 65%, that's where you need to budget for what expenses are you obligated to? The car insurance and putting gas in the car when you're driving. What expenses do you want? Is there a streaming app that you're going to pay for because you want it, or some other type of subscription? And other things that you're going to want to do, like go out with friends, go to the movies, eat food, that sort of thing. So you set aside 10% of every dollar for giving, 10% for savings, 15% for investing, and you have 65% to spend. And then you're going to break down the spending to things that you want and things that you need, things that are an obligation, and things that are not. So learn how to do that. 4 categories, and then focus on being intentional. Don't focus on being perfect. It's not about being perfect. Budgets aren't always perfect, but they're intentional. It's being mindful. It's being thoughtful about what am I going to do and how am I going to do it. And so, as I said, if you have those 4 categories and you assign percentages, you're already being intentional. You're already being thoughtful. So I've given you 2 of the top 5 money moves so far. One was opening a checking account and a savings account in your name for independence. Number 2 was learn how to budget, even if you're not making a lot. Let's put some percentages. Let's have 4 categories, put some percentages to them. And then in that spend category that you have 65%, figure out what do you want to spend on. Tip number 3 is to avoid lifestyle creep and debt traps. So as you start to make money, you are going to want to do things you haven't been able to do before. For instance, you might want to travel. If you're somebody who likes theme parks, maybe you like Disneyland, you're going to be like, man, now that I have some money, I want to take a trip. I want to go here. I want to go there. I want to do this or that. And that is perfectly fine. But don't allow it to consume you. If you have those 4 categories and in your 65% of spend, you decide, okay, I'm going to take a percentage of that and I'm going to set that aside so that I can take this trip. That's cool. But if you're always spending on stuff like that you didn't have money before, so you didn't do it before, now you have money and now you're spending it on that. These are things to be very, very cautious about. Another would be debt traps. So earlier I said there is this unhelpful cliche out there about pay off your credit card every month. But if you get a credit card and nobody teaches you how to use that tool, that financial tool, you're going to find yourself spending money that you don't have on the credit card because you have a limit and it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm allowed to borrow that. And then the minimum payment is okay. Like I can afford the minimum payment, so I'll do that. And you get caught in this trap. To avoid the debt trap, especially with a credit card, as I sit down with younger clients and they're getting their credit card for the very first time, rule number 1 is you don't put anything on the credit card you don't already have the money to pay for. The credit card is simply a tool we're using to make purchases, not to make purchases we cannot afford, to make purchases we can already afford. So one of the areas that I start most young people off in with a credit card is gas for the car. We are budgeting gas in the budget. We're already setting aside money. We have the money already. We set it aside, we protect it, we put the gasoline charges on the credit card, and then we pay the credit card with the cash that we set aside for gas. It is incredibly intentional. It is incredibly structured. So avoid overspending in this what's called lifestyle creep. It's, your lifestyle didn't include an annual trip to Disneyland. So all of a sudden you make some money and all of a sudden your lifestyle includes an annual trip to Disneyland. That is lifestyle creep. That is, I have money now and I'm doing something in my life I've never done before and I've made it a part of my life, consistently. The other part of that is debt traps. Those Disneyland trips, you like them so much, but you realize, like, I don't actually have the money for it, but I have a credit card and there's enough of a limit that I can just charge it and then I'll just figure it out later. These things are incredibly dangerous. So that's tip number 3 of the top 5 money moves for every high school grad is number 3, avoid lifestyle creep and debt traps. Number 4 is to start building a starter peace of mind fund. So we talked about savings. We talked about putting 10% into savings, but how long do you do that before you redirect those funds somewhere else? Well, as you're starting to build up your savings, you're going to want to have about 3 months of income set aside. But maybe you don't have a steady income. Maybe you don't have really like an income to speak of per se. And so it's hard to kind of figure out what is that number. But you want to settle on a number so that when you get to that number, you can move your attention and those dollars somewhere else. So when you're first starting off, I'd say $500. $500 in savings, kind of for a raining day, for peace of mind, is a great start. Maybe you want to get up to 1,000. 1,000 is a very powerful starting place for somebody who's just getting started. Later on in life, you're going to want that to be 3 months of your income. So if your income is $5,000 a month, at some point you're going to want $15,000 in savings. But for the time being, getting to $500 or $1,000 is a great starting place. And then you might continue to save 10%, but maybe your saving is earmarked for something else. And it's not just earmarked for peace of mind, but maybe you're starting to save for the down payment on a house or a car or something of that nature. So you want to always be saving 10%, but what you're saving toward is going to change over time. Right now, to get you started, you're saving toward peace of mind. It's just a savings account, just to have money parked. And so $500, $1,000 is a great starting place. You may also want to consider some type of online bank for these checking and savings accounts. This episode is not brought to you by Ally, but I will promote Ally as a great place. It's where I have my kids' accounts. They have high yield savings accounts where they're earning, right now, I think the interest rate is 3.6% on their savings. So that's not horrible. It's not as good as it was. It was in the 4%, and I had a different high yield savings account making 5.1%. But interest rates are down, so they're not that strong right now. But Ally has great tools for managing your money once it's parked there. So not only is it earning 3.6%, but they have buckets, and that's pretty cool because as you're saving, you can say, hey, this is my peace of mind fund. This is my car fund. This is my saving for a travel fund. And so you can have these different saving goals. It's all parked in one place, but you can kind of itemize it by buckets. And it's kind of a cool feature. You can do something similar with your checking account where you have these spending categories. And so it's like, hey, I'm going to, of that 65% that I get to spend, I'm spending, maybe 10% of that on food, X% on whatever. But it's a interesting place to start with a checking and a savings account for a high school grad. It will help them to think more intentionally about how they're saving, what they're saving toward, how they're spending, and how they're categorizing. But that's number 4. Number 4 is start building your savings. And number 5, the top 5 money moves for every high school grad. Number 5 is start investing. Start investing. At the earlier age you start to invest, you have more time on your side. And time is the key factor when it comes to investing. It's not so much about how much you invest as it is how much time do you have to let that investment grow. So if you have an income, opening up a Roth IRA is a great starting point. A Roth IRA, which is just a Roth is the person who authored the piece of legislation that allows people to invest in a retirement account for a very specific purpose, and that is it's after-tax contributions. Allow your money to grow tax-free so that when you take it out in the future, you're not taxed on it. But really what we're talking about is opening up a retirement account and throwing even like $50 a month in it. You start to get in that habit. Now, I said 15%, right? But so like if let's say you make $1,000 in a month, 15% of 1,000 would be $150. Definitely do that if you can. But like worst case scenario, a minimum of $50 a month put into a Roth retirement account with time on your side is going to be awesome. I would target 15%, like I said, and I would do like a minimum of $50 a month. And this is one of those things that I wish I knew then what I know now. Actually, that's not even completely true. I knew at the age of 18, 19, and 20 about compound interest. I knew about retirement accounts. I knew about the power of time, but I convinced myself that I didn't need to do it yet. And so I put it off, and I put it off, and I put it off. And I didn't actually start until I was in my 30s. And I regret that decision. This is one of those things that it's not even just if I knew then what I know now. It is, I knew it then and I didn't do it. And those are the words that I share with my younger clients who are in their 20s. I'm like, guys, it's one thing to know this stuff. It is a completely different thing to actually do it. And so I want to encourage you, don't just think about it, actually do it. So to recap real quick, the 5 top money moves for every high school grad. Move number 1, open a checking and savings account in your name and build some independence. Number 2, learn how to budget, even if you're not making a whole lot of money. 4 categories, percentages, good stuff. Number 3, avoid lifestyle creep and debt traps. Learn how to use credit wisely. Don't ever put anything on a credit card that you don't already have money to pay for. Number 4, start building your savings. Let's get 10% into savings. And when we achieve $500 or $1,000, we can start saving for other different things. You want to first start with a rainy day fund, a peace of mind fund. And number 5, start investing. Start now. A bare minimum of $50 a month, 15% of whatever you're making. Again, if you make $1,000 in a month, that's $150 into a retirement account. You will thank yourself. Future you will be very thankful that current you did it. Future you will be very mad at current you if you knew about it and you don't do it. All right, up next, I'm going to talk to the parents about how to help without hovering.
Hey there, budgeteers. It's a brand new year, and that means it's time for new habits, starting with your money. Take charge of your finances in 2025 with New Money Habits Financial Coaching. This isn't your typical financial advice. New Money Habits is all about giving you the knowledge, tools, and support to make confident money moves and build a rock solid financial foundation. Here's the deal, we're offering a free discovery session to kick off your journey to financial freedom. That's right, no strings attached. In this session, one of our expert coaches will help you to identify your financial goals and create a better plan for your money. We'll help you master your money mindset, sharpen your money management skills, and keep you accountable every step of the way. Make 2025 the year you say goodbye to financial stress and hello to the freedom you've been dreaming about. Schedule your free discovery session today and start creating the new money habits you need to achieve financial freedom.
Okay, parents, this last segment is kind of for you. So I want you to start having real conversations with your children about debt, spending, boundaries, all of it. Don't wait until after they make a mistake to warn them about potential pitfalls. Earlier, I talked about how even my 11-year-old has a sense of our budget and our money situation. He sits on my lap as I do the budget, and he helps me pay bills and do the calculations. He enjoys doing that. He has an awareness. Talk to your kids. Let them know what your situation is. Don't be embarrassed by it, and don't boast about it if you're well off. Just humbly show them what's going on. Humbly show them how to manage their money well with real conversations about your situation and their potential situation. Then next, I want you to normalize these money talks in the home. Share your own wins and mistakes. Invite your teen into your budget or your financial goals. Like I said, my 11-year-old knows what's going on, how much the household income is, what our mortgage is, what our expenses are. Give them a peek behind the curtain. Let them see what being a responsible adult really looks like. In part, you might actually encourage them to hold on to their youth a little bit longer and not rush to get to jump into a ton of responsibilities right away. I remember when I first started making money, I wanted my own phone line in my room. I wanted satellite TV. I wanted a pager. Yes, I'm dating myself because I wanted a pager. But all of a sudden I just wanted to jump into all of these responsibilities. So give your kids a peek behind the curtain, and it might slow them down a little bit on taking on too much responsibility too soon. We want our kids to be responsible, but we don't want them to be crushed by money decisions early. Parents, I also want you to set some healthy boundaries with your teens. You have to redefine the word help. Help does not mean bailing them out of bad financial situations. It means guiding them through those situations. So I sit down with clients all the time where we have to redefine the word help. Help doesn't mean that you step in and you take care of their financial woes. You can give them good guidance. You can give them good direction. You can say, hey, you may want to consider doing this, 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 and this in order to get yourself out of that situation. And then when you're out of the situation, think about doing this, 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 and this to avoid getting into that situation again. Guide them, coach them, train them up in the way that they should go, and they'll never depart from it. I want you to encourage ownership early, because while I don't want them to take on too much too soon, they do need the dignity that comes with being responsible and owning certain things. So whether that is they manage a portion of their own like college tuition or living expenses, have them do that. What might that look like? My partner Maria has an agreement with her daughter who is in college about how much she needs to contribute to college. So mom and dad are helping in that they are subsidizing to a certain degree, but there is a portion of responsibility that falls on their daughter. It goes back to the example I gave earlier. When my daughter starts driving and I know she'll be working, then she needs to contribute the portion of insurance that our insurance premiums go up every month. She'll need to set aside money to gas up the car. And so she will manage those things. Her paycheck's going to go into her checking account. She's going to need to make a transfer to dad for the amount of the insurance. She's going to manage that. I'll coach her through it. I'll guide her, but I'm not going to control her. And then coach them as they take on these additional responsibilities. When they think, oh, well, I want this subscription, I want this streaming service, or I want this gym membership, or I want this thing. And they feel like, hey, I can take on that responsibility. Let them, obviously they're an adult at this point, but guide them. Warn them where they need to be warned. Guide them and let inform them of like the red flags. Help them to build the best gift you can possibly give them, and that is confidence. Confidence in their ability to manage money and to manage it well. Live a little vicariously through your children in giving them this firm foundation that maybe you yourself didn't have. Watch them flourish and kind of surpass you in certain areas of like, oh, they did that better than you did. And that's fine, right? Don't we all want better for our children than we had? I think about a couple that I coach, and I coach their daughter, and their daughter has a travel fund. And so they came to me one day and they were like, well, you want a travel fund? Right? They gave her such a good, firm foundation that she kind of surpassed them in this one area where it was like, obviously her responsibilities are far different than her parents' responsibilities, but she had a travel fund, and they were like, that sounds cool. We want one of those. So have these conversations with your kids, put them on the right path, give them a firm foundation. Okay, so if you are inspired by this conversation today, come join us on Patreon for more like it. We have a dozen coaches over there who are providing all sorts of great content. You're going to be around like-minded people with similar goals. Check out the membership tiers that we have. Choose the one that's going to be right for you and join the conversation over there on Patreon. All right, let me leave you on this one final note. very early on, I said that that money is just a tool. I want to remind you that in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 24, Jesus says that you cannot serve two masters, for you will love one and you will despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Money is meant to be a tool. Too often, unfortunately, in our society, here in the United States, we have made money our God. We serve money. We work ridiculous hours. We overextend ourselves, all of that sort of thing. So just remember, you cannot serve both God and money. Serve God, allow money to just simply be a tool, and then that tool will work for you when you manage it well. And it will work against you if you don't know how to manage it well. All right. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
That does it for this episode of the New Money Habits Podcast. Remember, if you have any questions, make sure to hit us up on social at New Money Habits and follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Please consider leaving a 5-star rating and review to help us spread this message of hope to people looking for a better plan for their money.